Fire.
All systems are go.
Roger that, Control. We will go for console launch.
Roger that, VCS. Power supply is plugged in. Cartridge port is open.
VCS is now at full distribution and great sales anticipated ahead. Control, we have a problem. There's a dip in sales. In television and ColecoVision, catching up fast. We can't keep up with them. We're losing them. We're losing them!
The Atari VCS video game console, past its prime. Atarians, we can rebuild it. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first personal arcade machine. The 5200 will be that machine. Better than the VCS. Better graphics, faster processor, stronger arcade game library.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello once again to another episode of the Atari 5200 podcast. We have, as always, my cohort, David. We got Glen, and we're bringing Peter back in again for more shenanigans. And this is not quite one of our real episodes, but it's one of the things that we like to do every once in a while, which is a mini episode or a minisode. We're not quite ready for part 2. We've been working pretty hard, and not only that, but it is the holidays, so all of us are kind of scrambling with family, friends, work, and everything else, and trying to get all that work done at the very end of the year that needs to get done before we click over to January 1. But nonetheless, we want to put a little bit of something out for you, and tonight we are going to be covering a lot of the stuff that's been happening within the community at large. And boy, there has been a lot. Gentlemen, what do you think?
Yeah, well, we've had some mental issues.
It's yeah. I sat down. I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this. And, you know, I've watched a lot of Metal Jesus. So anyways, I've watched a lot of his videos. He's entertaining. He's fun. This one, instead of, I think it was his Minisode. Because here we are, we're just going to kind of talk about what's going on in the community right now and everything else to kind of bridge the gap between now and putting out our Sportsapaloza. So as we do the research and everything else, I swear he just went out and was like, where's a dead horse I can beat? And he just went wandering in a field, and it was just like, oh, yeah, the 5200, I can beat this dead horse. And he did it. And I have to say, I'm kind of – I see where he was going with it. Oh, boy. What's a nice way to put this?
What got me about it was like it was rehashing everything the Angry Video Game Nerd he did kind of in a spoof on a lot of it. And it was like he was rehashing the size and this. It was like we're hearing the AVGN all over again.
Yeah. What I didn't like was at the very end of it when he said, oh, hey, if you want to play these games, you just get an Atari 800 XL and just play the games because that's good enough. And it's like, wait a second, you're missing one of the biggest aspects of this machine is the fact that it's analog, not digital. Yeah, you knock the digital part of it, but the analog part of it is what makes this thing shine. And the games that are really good on analog, Centipede, Missile Command, Star Raiders, Defender, et cetera, you completely brush that off. You will never get that kind of performance and gameplay out of an Atari 800 XL. Period.
Yeah, I agree with that, wholeheartedly, man. I mean, when I saw that video, I mean, I just, that's why I sent it to you guys. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. It's just a cheap shot that was unnecessary. And as a matter of fact, I subscribed to the Metal Jesus account early on back in May, well, when I was getting back into the Atari, which, again, I told you that story in our last episode about getting back into the whole thing, he was one of the accounts that I found that actually had sort of somewhat praised the 5200. He did sort of backhand the controllers a little bit in that video, but whatever. Everybody does backhand the controllers. It's part of the deal. But, yeah, I just thought it was, it rubbed me the wrong way. It's just like, why even make an episode about that? It just didn't make any sense.
I think part of that, Peter, is we've addressed these problems. And I like the fact that he did talk about the other. It's not a Wicco controller. That's a Pro Control joystick.
He called it a Wicco. I'm like, that's not a Wicco.
Yeah, I mean, that was like, when I saw him do that, I was like, hold on here. And, if you could imagine me picking up my reference books and blowing off the dust, which there are no reference books or blowing off the dust. But I'm like, wait a second. You could just kind of see me. Just imagine me furiously going through pages going, wait a second. When did Wicco make this thing?
If I can just say, because I don't want to talk too much about this guy because I have nothing good to say right now. But I will say that the fact that he called the Competition Pro controller a Wicco controller is indicative of the amount of research and knowledge that was demonstrated in that video.
It's like, here we are. We do this podcast. It's a labor of love. It actually costs us money to do the podcast, but we're doing this because we want to get out there a record of this machine. We want to get out there, kind of give it its fair shake, because this was a very influential machine. It incorporates, back in 1982, a lot of the features that we take for complete granted nowadays with modern machines. And it all started with this thing. This thing was an innovator. The problem was it came out way before its time. And then you have somebody just come in, and again, not a Wicco, but it shows how much research it basically, what broke my heart about it was, without him doing the research, he cheapened his own brand. He basically shot himself in the foot. And I will reach out to Metal Jesus Rocks, and I'm just going to say, hey, you know what? You got to give this thing a fair shake. In fact, hey, I'm one of these guys that's like, hey, let live and let live. If you would like to be on the show and kind of contribute, you're more than welcome to. But, you just can't. He wasn't even shooting from the hip. He was. I don't know what it was. It was like, what is this? I don't know what his point was.
Here goes I'm gonna weigh in. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, I'm gonna just say a couple of things about Metal Jesus Rocks in his video against the 5200. He definitely, I think, overstepped a little bit when he said that this thing sucks in the title. I mean, he could have said these controllers suck, and I guess that would kind of make sense from his perspective, because he had a whole box full of non-working 5200 controllers, and yeah, I've got a few myself. But yeah, when he says this thing sucks, he's talking about the entire console, which is completely a ridiculous position to be taking. Just because he has a box of controllers that don't work, the whole thing is just to, throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I was pretty disappointed with the experience of listening to him go on about that. He didn't show any footage of any one game. Okay, he didn't show anything about the gameplay, and he had working controllers. He had the Competition Pro, or what do you call it? Competition Pro?
No, he thought it was a Wicco controller,
which he thought was a Wicco.
Yeah. I mean, it just didn't sound like he was I don't know. It just didn't sound like he was as coherent as he ought to be on his presentation. It didn't sound like he was covering it very well, and all he wanted to talk about was broken controllers or controllers that don't work. And he did even have one that he says he got repaired and it does work. And but he didn't want to talk about that one. He wanted to talk about all the ones that didn't work. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, if he could have been a little bit more fair by maybe talking more about the Virtual Boy or maybe the CDI, I could go into a number of consoles that are far, far worse than anything that has to do with a bad 5200 controller, I think he was way out of line. So there's my 2 cents. Not real happy with Metal Jesus Rocks.
But I will say that I put up it was good to see that there were other people who were posting, including Glen, who were posting on behalf of the 5200, so that at least if somebody did see that video, because I think at that time it had 130,000 views, hopefully that if whoever watches that video will see some of our comments there and not right off the 5200.
Yeah, I made a comment or two as well. So, yeah, I mean, if any of you are 5200 fans want to go and add to his views, which, just make sure you put a comment in there that's pro 5200. You don't have to bag on him, but just, more of a positive type comment about the 5200 I think would be best.
Or even if you give a thumbs up.
Totally with you on that, Steve, which is it's like, hey, wait a second, you're not giving this, you got to give this a fair shake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Odyssey 2. My first, but again, we're starting to run into the nostalgia problem, which is in flight training we always talk about there are certain laws of learning, and the biggest law is the law of primacy, which is the first thing you learn will be the thing that you retain the longest. So again, this strikes back to the law of primacy. What was the first video game that our generation had in the home? It was the Atari 2600. Very few people had Intellivisions. ColecoVisions probably weren't out yet. But I'll tell you, when the Atari 2600 or VCS came into the home with our generation, we fell in love with that thing. So it's very tough to get around that bias. That being said, I agree with you. Metal Jesus Rocks did not give this thing a fair shake.
And he didn't even touch on any of these newer adapters that people are making to allow PC controllers or Genesis controllers or, Atari 2600 controllers that like paddles to work with it. I mean, he just didn't do any kind of comprehensive coverage of the system, just basically bag on it the entire video, which is just not right.
He took a cheap shot to put out content for the holidays.
Yeah, there you go. It was an easy, it's easy money for him. He puts his ads on there, right? So
right. It was low-hanging fruit. Here you go.
Yeah.
There are better, and not only that, but he at the very end he asked, "What is the system that you think is an absolute, that does not do it for you?"
Mm-hmm.
That would have been. If he would have prefaced that entire episode with that, it's like, hey, here are some we're looking at game machines that just don't do it for you. You don't like them, yada, yada, yada. For me, it's the Atari 5200, and here is why, which I still think would have been, counterproductive because, I know we're not huge. We don't have the massive following that Metal Jesus Rocks has. Someday, maybe, who knows? But I almost want to say, hey, dude, come over here. We all those problems you talked about, we solved them. Come on over. The water's fine. Come on in.
Good
Bob,
seriously.
Bob, I just want to say one thing first. In the future, we'll have our own panel of discussion. It'll be called the Atari 5200 Podcast. All the crew will be up there. That's coming in the future.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
That would be fun, man.
Okay, and then he can come in too. I'm going to give him a seat right in the front.
Yeah. Just hey,
come on down. Kind of be
down,
like one of these congressional hearings where we're drilling him with questions, right?
Well, yeah. I think, if I remember right, Metal Jesus Rocks was at PRGE.
Oh, yeah.
He was there. So, or I'll just show up next year and...
Yeah, and
then someone give him a controller as a thank you. So here you go.
There you go. I'll give him one of my non-functioning ones that I have for parts.
Maybe that probably wouldn't be a good idea. I think he's going to just make another video about it.
What I'll do is I'll take one of the non-fun... He'll make a video, but hey, there's these guys. They're called the Atari 5200 Podcast.
These guys are jerks.
They're all ridiculous. They think it's a good system.
No, I see where he was going with it. I respect the fact that he does have a great following, and he is very entertaining. But I just,
I would like to take any skeptic and put them in front of Star Raiders or Return to Fractalus, and then hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Centipede, Missile Command with the trackball controller. I mean,
yeah, he never mentioned the trackball either, which is like far superior even to Atari 8-bit.
I had left a message on his video, basically telling him about the podcast, and I'd welcome him to come on as a guest, and we weren't happy to discuss all the issues and describe one by one. What he was saying was inaccurate, but he hasn't responded to it.
Well, it's hard to eat crow.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not an easy thing. You really got to choke it down. You really got to put some effort into it. But
don't worry,
you know what?
I'm basting.
The door's open.
I'm basting that crow in the oven right now.
But yeah, it was kind of, it was frustrating and disappointing because it's like everything he mentioned was like, we've addressed this.
Right. I was worried most about Dave when I saw the video. Seriously, as I could tell from his reaction right now, I was so worried about Dave going crazy, crossing that border, and just invading the state of Washington.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second. If you know, I had posted a response on Facebook of what that video, and Glenn goes, "Okay, David, gotta tone it down. We don't want to start a war."
Yeah, no internet wars. Don't feed the trolls.
So I quickly deleted it and just put like a really generic, okay, take a look, another Atari 5200 hate video, and just let other people make up their own mind.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I think what he was trying to do was start a conversation. Which console was not the one for you? And that would have been a better way to do it because it's like, he mentions all these things that are good about it. And he just keeps on knocking on the controllers. And it's like, well, yeah, we've addressed that. They're carbon circuits. You need to get rid of the carbon circuits. You got to get the gold revision 9 circuits.
But you have to remember, it's not just that his title of the most disappointing console. It's that he adds to it. It sucks.
Right.
Like, it's not just a disappointing console. He added that it sucked.
Yeah, with no information. And that's why I like Glen's page. When I was doing my research back in May, when I started getting right back into this thing, and I found Glen's page, Glen at least was fair about it and shed light on it. And shed light on it in the correct way. I mean, this is the console that I grew up with. So, I mean, it means the most to me, and I, sorry, gaming community, if you all hate it, but this guy is not the only one. With all the other videos and accounts out there that I've seen guys that claim that they have over 120 systems and 80,000 games and stuff like that. I see these garage sale guys, that go out and do that sort of stuff. Not one of these guys have a 5200. They have all the 2600 variations, all the Intellivisions, but no 5200, and I'm just shaking my head. Can't believe it.
Yeah. I'm wondering, is it because it's too problematic? Because you actually have to know what you're doing with this system to use it. I mean, to plug it into the wall is actually an involved process. This is not a simple machine, and it never was designed to be a simple machine. They were pushing the technology, pushing the boundaries, and discovering new technologies. And it's not that easy of a console to own. It just didn't get a break. It didn't get the break, and it continues not to get a break. And it was like, oh man.
You pick a wacko wacko when it's a wicko.
Wow, I'm scoring at home like you've never scored. I'm wacko over wacko.
Pick a wacko wacko when it's a wicko.
You're as tough as the joysticks at the arcade.
He's wacko over wicko.
Wacko, the only authentic arcade joysticks. The most durable, the most accurate, the fastest controls money can buy.
I've been practicing. Yeah.
Wacko over wicko. You pick a wacko wacko when it's a wicko.
Okay, now on to the awesomeness of the 5200 community.
Very much so. Okay, so news. Man, that in the 5200 world, I am working with a gentleman. I need to touch base with him one more time, but he has a bunch of old, non-functioning Wiko controllers, 5200 equipment, Y cable. I think he's got like 2 or 3 joysticks, a keypad, some other equipment that does not work. I think it's a couple of native controllers and everything. He said it doesn't work. You know, you can buy them for parts. So I'm trying to work with him. We've already come down with a price. I texted him back and I said, hey, are you still interested in getting rid of those things? I'm down, and I haven't heard back from him. So it's the holidays. I'm giving him the benefit of a doubt, but hopefully I'll be hearing from him soon, so I can get these things and start experimenting on how to make the Wiko 5200 controller a little bit more robust. So if I can, like I said, if I can get a hold of some non-functioning ones, play around with them, make them functioning again, I think it would be a little bit kind of fun, and also I would pass along that information to you, the community. Also, I'm pretty sure, I know everybody's been quite, the boards have been buzzing over at Atari Age about Philip Boland. Philip went ahead and made the new super overlays for the 5200. Now, mine are supposed to show up in a couple of days. David, have you gotten your set yet?
I've gotten 2 sets.
You got 2 sets. Oh my goodness!
Better believe it, buddy.
Oh goodness! So what are we looking at for? What are we looking at for the quality, the construction,
so
that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So I got them in my hands right now. They seem to be made of plastic, so they feel a lot reminiscent of like the Intellivision overlays.
Okay.
Or the, I think the ColecoVision overlays also had that kind of like a plasticky feel to them.
Okay.
They're beautiful. Colors are great. The designs are awesome.
Last I checked, these are absolute top quality overlays. They're not cheap. Set will set you back $50 US, and then I think it's $3 shipping or whatever like that. But I think he's almost out as of right now. And so anyways, I went ahead and picked up a set. I'm looking forward to it. So anyways, they're really top quality. And the reasoning behind it was like, well, it was going to be $2 plus maybe free shipping or maybe some, throwing it into an envelope. You're going to go on eBay. You're basically going to pay double or triple the money to get these overlays that it would for anything else. So I was like, you know what? They're brand new. They're perfect. They're not beat up. They're not anything. I'm just going to pull the trigger, get these things. And apparently, David, from what you said, they're great. They're gorgeous.
The overlays made by Phil Boland, they are completely flat.
Oh, okay.
It is the
Cool.
other overlay set that's coming from Germany. Those are the ones with the 3D, raised buttons. Got both, actually.
Oh, you got both?
Oh, come on.
Oh,
how can I
the one from Germany and the one from Philip Boland?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What did the Germany ones set you back?
Oh, my God. I don't even want to think about it.
Let's not.
It just happened somehow that almost simultaneously 2 different people decided to come out with brand new overlays for the Atari 5200, right? So before Phil Boland's super overlay sets were ready, there was a gentleman, his name is Ralph, I would say Puchner or Puckner.
Puchner?
Yeah. And he started what was called the Atari 5200 Orphan Overlay Collection. Okay? And it says here, created in association with the Facebook group Retro Video Game. Okay? So what these are, how they're different than any other overlays that have ever been produced to date, is that they're actually 3 layers. Okay? So you have, there's plastic on the bottom, there's paper in the middle, and then there's a plastic coating on the top.
Gotcha.
3 layers. And then it goes through some kind of press in which the actual buttons themselves are raised. So what's cool about this is that once these are on your controller, it's like Braille. You can feel with your finger or your thumb the raised button.
Nice.
Okay. So I've still got to get used to them. I still got to, like, let's say, work them in, and I'm going to, like, update people as the podcast goes on. How they feel, how they work and stuff like that. But what he's done is he's already created all 69. And the cool thing about this project is that it's you're going to be able to continue to buy them in the future. So it's not
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not like if you missed it now, it's done, it's finished, too bad. No, these are now going to be sold on his website, and we'll get information for people later on about that in the next episode. But for example, the Atari overlays for the Atari games, they look very similar to what some of the overlays that Phil has, where it's mostly all you see is the buttons and the name of and what the buttons, the functions they perform. Like if you see soccer, just like on a regular overlay, you'll have all the boxes, and each box will have a title over it telling you what it does, right? Its function.
Right.
Now, what Phil does is in some of the overlays that really don't have too many functions, so there's a lot of empty space. What he does is he then puts almost like, I would call them like screenshots of the game itself.
Right.
Right? So Centipede, there's only 2 buttons on the bottom, player 1 and 2 and game select, but the rest of it is actually, you see it's like a screenshot. You don't see the screen itself, but you see what you would be seeing on the screen if you were looking at a TV. So that's very cool. That's very cool. So just as Phil, where he might have an overlay in which there's not much functions in the game. So, for example, like Pac-Man, you have 2 buttons that are named. The rest of it is a screenshot of Pac-Man. Similarly, Ralph overlays. He'll have what almost looks like box cover art on his overlays. Okay. So, for example, like Hubert apparently uses nothing. So it's just a big box art of Hubert. And then, for example, you'll have Dreadnought Factors, and it's really cool. So it's got the 7 buttons, but you actually see a screenshot of the Dreadnought. And, Decathlon is actually that guy on the box who's running at the speed of light.
Yep.
That screenshot there. And Pitfall 2, you see Pitfall Harry with his lantern. And so it's really cool. So they're both awesome projects. But you know what? If you think about it, you have to remember, they're really both pricey in a way. I mean, the super overlays are like $50, but well worth the money.
Right.
I think the first set of the Atari overlays from Ralph were also around 50-ish as well.
Okay.
The difference is, though, is that in Phil's project, you get a pair for each game. So each game has 2 overlays. While in Ralph's project, you only get 1 overlay per game.
But it's all 69 production games.
All 69. But you know what? There's hope because Phil has been updating us, and there is plans to produce more sets.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think he said he wanted to do the Atari ones first, and then the third-party games next.
Yes, and that's exactly what Ralph did. He first started off with all the Atari products, all the Atari games. That's what he did first. Then he went on to, the Parker Brothers and the other third-party video game producers.
Well, while we're on the subject of this and also what Ralph has been doing, let's talk about the other project that Ralph is working on. And this, I got a feeling that this is going to set us back a couple of quid to get one of these. But Ralph is also working on building an Atari 5200 HDMI compatible console.
let me just read a little bit of the description, just so that people can get a better idea of what he's doing. So it says here, after completion of the Atari 5200 HDMI mod, a new offer will start in a few weeks. The Atari 5200 Black Edition. Similar to the 7800 HDMI Black Edition, that version will contain, beside the HDMI mod, the following features. New black faceplate. So he's replacing, see what he's done is he's bought up a lot of 5200 consoles. Okay? And what he does is he takes these consoles and then he mods them and refurbishes them. Okay? So a lot of times that silver faceplate that's in front of the console, it gets all scratched up. It doesn't look so nice anymore. So what he's done is he's going to replace that with it looks like a shiny finish black faceplate. It's going to include stereo surround output audio for the best arcade feeling. And apparently 2 9-pin joystick port adapters allowing the use of standard Atari controllers in parallel to the original ones.
That is so cool.
Okay.
Pretty sweet.
Okay.
All right,
That's
I'm
bonus, man.
bored right now.
Okay.
It's almost like he has built a master play within the machine itself.
Yeah. Wow.
It's got
Sweet.
a new switching power supply, international, so it'll work region-free, sort of. Okay, he's decided to change the power light to orange. And there will be a CRT emulation mode, optional. He's going to give you one controller that's refurbished, original controller. And he goes, minimal changes will be made, so the RF is still intact. I will not drill any holes at all. Due to the huge size, I also plan a carry case instead of a box. Not sure if I'll modify the controller for Auto Center. Anyway.
So how much? Is this going to be like $500 or what?
I don't even want to imagine.
Okay, so I wrote to him. I wrote to Ralph, and I was like, OMG, as the kids would say, OMG, I got to get me one of these. And he's like, well, the parts for me, and I don't know if it was in euros or if it was in dollars, but when he wrote to me, I think it was in dollars, he goes, well, the parts for me to do all this is about $100 to do this. So it's probably going to be the cost of the machine itself, the cost of the parts to do the modification, and then to do, we're talking about shipping and handling. It's got to come through customs like everything else coming from overseas.
That'll be $60.
Yeah, at least. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be factored into it. If it's below $250, I'm there. I got to get one.
Yeah, that'd be a deal. That'd be a deal. I think
not
it'll
only that,
most
but
likely be $300, but I don't know.
I can work an extra trip or something. I'll do something. I'll stand out on the road. We'll work for Atari 5200 money.
We'll fly for the 5200.
There you go. Exactly. There you go. So yeah, I mean, I think of all these things, and what I like about the community is this: nobody's out to make money on any of this stuff. These are labors of love. I mean, yeah, you could charge an arm and a leg for these things, but everybody's been, and my thank you to the Atari 5200 community, where everybody's been really good. Everybody's been like, we're not here to gouge anybody, and this isn't for the collectors. This is for the enthusiasts who really love playing these games and playing with these consoles. I've just been completely blown away and impressed by how the community reaches out to each other and continues to do stuff for each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of good people. It really is.
And this segues into one of the things that I just recently got. Ladies and gentlemen of the Atari 5200 podcast, I finally own a Heavy Sixer.
Wow, that's
yeah, Shebanga, man. Welcome. That's awesome, dude.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey. I hope I don't butcher your name, Brian, but special thanks to Brian Cesarek for giving me the opportunity to give this Restored Beauty a new home. I I was in the kitchen. Everybody was asleep. I'm kind of a fastidious kind of individual, so I was doing dishes. I like to go to bed with an empty sink. So I did the dishes. I put everything in the dishwasher. Yada yada yada. So Atari Age Marketplace, and Brian had posted this beautiful heavy sixer on there, and it was just happenstance. I just stumbled across it. I was like, "Hey, anybody reach out to you about this?" And he goes, "Nope, you're the first one." And I'm like, sold. And what he's done was he went in there. I believe he replaced the TIA chip. He replaced one or two switches or whatever, but he restored this thing to absolutely beautiful, pristine condition. I posted a quick little video. It didn't upload into HD. I tried to get it to upload into HD, but it didn't. But I kind of made this quick little video, pumped it out in about 10 minutes. The editing software does a pretty good job making me look good. But I pumped this thing out, and yeah, it's called, it's a new adventure, and it's just a beautiful machine. But I have to tell you, wow, quality way back when was pretty good, because heavy sixer, it is true to the name. This thing is thick, injection molded plastic. It is actually heavy. It is heavy to pick up. Have you gotten a hold
of the controllers for it? The controllers have like metallic, springy type insides. I mean, they're chunky in there. Yeah. In fact, last summer, I went to a thrift store and found one of those heavy sixer joysticks for a couple bucks, and I got it home. It works fantastic. And
really?
It's kind of got like these springs inside. You can hear them kind of stretching as you move around the joystick, and the button's different too. It's kind of got a really weird spring effect to it, unlike the rest of the post 1978 Atari consoles. They had just more basic joysticks, but the very first one in '77 was really a whole different controller.
Well,
anyway, I was really happy to find one. Yeah.
Well, if I can just add, the first controller was called the CX-10. Okay.
There you go.
So later revisions of that controller became known as, I think it was the CX-40. But the CX-10, think of it like, I don't know, you know those cars they used to, police officer cars they used to use, the Crown Victorias?
Oh, yeah.
Well, think of it like the CX-40 is a regular Crown Victoria, but the CX-10 is like a cop car with the heavy-duty shocks.
It's the police interceptor version.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see them on eBay every once in a while, but they are pretty uncommon. So I would call them almost rare. Yeah.
Okay. Now something for me to look for. I actually have a CX-40, an original, the old CX-40, that I modified I modified it to make with micro switches.
Nice. Very cool.
So yeah, I just went down to when we had a Radio Shack here in town. I went down there and I picked up a bunch of little the micro switches, modified it. It didn't take too much. Just watched a video on YouTube. It's like, okay, here's what you need to do, and I'll tell you, instead of those flimsy little, I basically oil can buttons is what I call them. I went ahead and modified it. I soldered everything in and everything. The micro switches work great, but the spine of the joystick, the actual joystick that makes contact and everything, that plastic is, if you start reefing on that, it's going to pop.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate that. So my good buddy Ryan and I, we've been toying with the idea of what if we were to make this? What would it take to injection mold these things? We can 3D scan this, build it into a computer and everything else. What if we made it? What if we 3D printed them? Well, you run into the trouble with 3D printing. Plastic is not as robust or flexible or you run into that problem. It's like, okay, so 3D printing, at least what's accessible to us, is not an option. And one of the things we even came up with was, what if we were to actually machine this out of like aluminum?
Oh, wow.
And it was like, boy, we need CNC machinery. We need a lot of that. And not only that, but, how do you make it flexible? There'd be a lot of R&D on it. But I would love to do something like that. So micro switch, CX-40, it looks like a CX-40 plays like a CX40, but basically it will never break.
Yeah, very sweet.
To
I have a
dream the
2600
impossible dream.
joystick. Yeah, I have a 2600 joystick. It's called the Mindscape, and I think it's got a trigger on the underside, and it's got the micro switches, and it's got a whole different feel than the 2600 stick. But it works on a 2600. I really like the clickiness of it. It really is nice. Definitely.
Cool.
Yep.
I am currently looking up Atari CX10 on eBay.
What would make the Atari 5200 Super System an even better system?
An adapter for 2600 games.
And now it's here.
So I can play Berserk and Phoenix?
All 2600 and 5200 games. It's the only system that plays everything made for Atari.
Like Kangaroo?
With the best graphics and gameplay.
Centipede?
With our brand new trackball controller.
A trackball, an adapter, plus all Atari games?
What more could you ask for?
Nothing.
It's not for nothing, but how about a $30 rebate and Pac-Man?
Super.
System from Atari.
Yes, I was out watching Star Wars, and I was a little late, so I hope you forgive me. Oh yeah.
Oh, no problem.
Well, I have to give you one 5200 spoiler. There was, if people want to skip ahead like 20 seconds, I'm going to say this. Are you ready? Okay. They had a dreadnought in the movie, and it was very reminiscent of the Dreadnought Factor, I have to say.
Oh, okay.
It really was. So anyway, for those of you who accepted my spoiler there, go see Star Wars and kind of pretend you're playing the 5200 during that scene. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Hey, they borrowed the old scripts for the 7th movie. They might as well borrow everything else. So why not the Atari 5200 Dreadnought as well?
That they called it a dreadnought and everything. It was kind of hilarious.
Oh, that is funny. Well, would that count as an Easter egg?
I think so.
I'm going to count it as an
Atari
Easter egg. I'm gonna leave my mind open to this one. So, other than that, don't tell me anything else. I
won't.
Let's see what else has been going on. I got back from PRGE, Portland Retro Gaming Expo. Fantastic time.
Yeah, it
was one of those moments where the couples that we went to college with, we've all stuck together over all these years, and we've been to Europe together. We've done this, that, and the other together. We've done all these things together, and this is one of our annual things that we use to, all the kids get together, all of us get together, and we celebrate fandom, geekdom. We celebrate retro games. In fact, my good buddy Mitch, shout out to Mitch, hey, but he got so excited over this over the convention this time. He was like, Bob, I need you to help me. And I was like, what do you need help with? He was like, Bob, I'm doing it. I'm buying a 2600. He goes,
for him.
I've never had one. I've always wanted one. He goes, Bob, we're going to buy a 2600. I need you to help me buy stuff up. It was like, awesome. You have come to the right place. So we found him a good 4-switch 2600. Got him an RF adapter. Got him the joysticks. I still have to refurbish some paddles for him. But the funnest part was going to all the different vendors and kiosks and everything else that were set up there. And I was just ripping through these things. It was like, this game's good for like leveling your table, putting it underneath the putting it underneath the leg of the table and leveling the table. So don't even bother with this one. Oh, but one of the toughest game to find was Pitfall.
Really? Yeah, that's a highly sought after game, right?
And man, I think out of the thousands, I would say the thousands of 2600 cartridges that were there, I think I found maybe 3, and of course all of them had the Actiplaque on the labels and everything else. But
that's Activision.
But it was hey, we got them all working and everything else. In fact, a few of them didn't work, and I just said, okay, a few of them don't work. Yep. You got any Q-tips? Yep. Does your wife have any fingernail polish remover? Yeah. It was like, bring it on out.
Mm-hmm.
So went ahead and cleaned them all up, threw them in, worked like a charm, and I was like, there you go. Have a nice day. So anyways...
You mentioned Pitfall. If I could jump in real quick, that's Pitfall and Night Driver were the first two games I ever played in any video game, of any video games in my entire life. So really? Pitfall definitely has a spot in my heart, man.
Night Driver was one of my first. It was, and that and River Raid. That was the first two I owned. It was not bad.
I love that game. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a classic Carol Shaw's masterwork, if you ask me. So,
yes.
And which looks great on the 5200.
Oh,
yeah, it looks very sharp on the 5200. Yeah,
loved it. Love it. So while I was down at PRGE, I went ahead and over the last year, trolling eBay, trying to find the best possible copy I could within reason of Howard Scott Warshaw's trifecta. We had Raiders of the Lost Ark, Yar's Revenge, and E.T. I met him again this year, talked with him a little bit. He gave me some really cool insights about some stuff I had about work. It was like, you know what? Hey, what about this, that, or the other? Because he's a psychotherapist. And I was like, I kind of asked him, I said, hey, what if somebody's not fitting in with the team? How do I get them to fit in with the team? And he was like, stop right there. You should ask that question, but you should also ask the question, is the team not fitting in with him? He might be the one who's right. I was like, holy smokes. This is why you're so good and smart, and I like you.
Maybe he should come on this show and psychoanalyze all of us.
That would be...
How long that episode would be?
You know how expensive that episode would be?
I think we'd all probably hang up by about 10 minutes in. So, yeah, I'm sure he's a good guy. That sounds like a good person.
He's an amazing, very approachable individual. Howard is one of the greats. He's just great programmer. In fact, he even talked about how he's thinking about programming a new 2600 game just for fun.
Oh wow!
Because the homebrew community is so active right now. He's thinking. He goes, you know what? Maybe I ought to just dust everything off, and I have an idea for a game. Maybe I should do it. And the entire room just went silent. It was like, So, anyways, I got the trifecta signed by him. I posted it on the Facebook page, and then by a turn of fate, I went into the video game museum that they had set up there, and standing next to all these different art pieces that had been printed was none other than Atari box art extraordinaire artist Steve Hendricks.
Oh, wow, that's great.
This is the man who brought you the cover art for Warlords, Haunted House, and Defender.
Wow.
So
Did he have some original work there? No. His original work actually still is in his studio, and he's still actively working and everything else. And so here I am. I'm sitting here. I'll tell you guys the story. So I'm sitting here with one of my buddies, my buddy Joe, and we're sitting there, and I'm talking to him. And I'm like, hey, your artwork is just I've loved your artwork. It really. It created a world in my mind. It sparked the imagination, blah, blah, blah. So I'm waxing poetic about all this stuff. Sitting there in front of me is this beautiful, big, original print of the Defender cover, artwork, I should say. It's one of 250, signed by none other but Steve Hendricks. So I'm sitting there looking at this thing, and I'm telling him how much I love his work, and blah, 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 blah. And I look down, and it's like, if I don't buy this, I'm going to look like a complete jerk. So I was like, so what's this? Are these for sale? He's like, yeah, the big prints are 40, the small ones are 20. And I was Gobble it up. great.
It was like, this is not the time to be a cheapskate. It's just like, hey, I really love your work. Oh, my God, it's so influential, blah, 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 blah. Oh, hey, look at the time. Got to go. Bye. I couldn't do it. It was just like, Bob, shut up.
Just
Pull out the
money.
$40, bring the thing home.
That's funny.
So I
Well, I'm
did.
glad
So
you
I
did.
so
if
I
you
brought
decide you don't want to have wasted $40, send it my way, and I'll give you $40 for it, because I would love to have that.
someday I will have an office, or I'll have my downstairs remodeled. It will be up in a place of prominence next to some of my other signed artwork, and I got to tell you, it was just a lot of fun to meet him, talk to him. The original draft of Haunted House, the cover for Haunted House, that actually has a funny story to it. I'll leave it for another time. In fact, I'll leave it for the Sportsapaloza episode, so I can actually put together the story. But other than that, let's see, what else has been going on with me? I bought Sinistar, went to the Atari Age kiosk at PRGE. They are a showstopper. They are, it's kind of like the little Mecca in the middle of everything. They put on a great place for you to play games. I got not Bosconian. It's a Bosconian clone called Draconian for David. David, have you been enjoying that?
It's awesome.
Love it. Awesome. So I got Draconian, which is a Bosconian clone for the 2600 for David. And for myself, I got, well, hey, Captain Bob of the 5200 podcast, I got to get a 5200 game. For some weird reason, I wanted to get Tempest, but they didn't have any Tempest there, which was fine because I eventually settled on Sinistar.
Nice.
Oh, you have no idea. I mean, I'll tell you what, if you want to talk about what this machine is capable of, it's capable of several different sprites being manipulated at any given time. It is a beautiful, I mean, visually, it's an absolutely stunning game. And when Sinistar comes together, it says, "Beware, I live." It's got speech.
Wow.
Oh.
Was that taken from the Atari 8-bit line of computers, or was that an original, like Tempest?
I think it's a homebrew. You know what, gentlemen? Hold on.
No,
Let me get up here.
It's
was it a prototype?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
I think it was a mostly finished prototype, and then it was just whatever minimal work, I guess, or whatever work had to be done to finish it. It was, and yeah, so it was a game that could have came out in the 80s, but as we know, video game crash, blah blah blah. But somebody went there, I believe, finished it off. It was a prototype, and it's now for sale at the Atari Age store. And I bought that one way back in 2015. It is awesome. It is a really, really great version of Sinistar.
It's graphically stunning. The gameplay is almost spot on to the arcade. And boy, when the Sinistar comes together and just beware, I live. It's so awesome.
That's awesome, man. That's like the countermeasure, you know, when that skull appears when you don't enter the code in time. I mean, that music just resonates throughout your entire house.
Yeah. Oh, this thing is great. So,
well, I just wanted to thank you on the show for getting that copy of Draconian for me. I really did appreciate it. And the cool thing is it came with a 3D printed faceplate that says Draconian PRGE 2017, and it has a 3D printed model of those bases that you have to destroy.
Yeah, the space stations.
So if you take a look at Atari Age, the Facebook page, I actually used the picture that Bob had sent me originally before he packed it away to mail it to me. So that alone is such a cool gift.
I was going to say it was a swag bag, but it came in a box. So
yes.
So that was your swag bag from PRGE. One of these days, I would love. I plan on going every year. Again, it's just a wonderful. It's such a wonderful thing to go to if you're new to retro gaming. if you're an old hat at retro gaming, if you want to do something that's fun and you want to bring your kids, you want to bring your family, there's so much stuff that's going on. There's the Free Play Arcade that's sponsored by, I know Ground Control of Portland, Oregon brings in a lot of their machines. I think One Up as well will bring in machines too. Per tradition, they have an Atari 2600 set up in a simulated downstairs basement where it's an old crummy couch, like an old hide-a-bed couch, a green shag rug, an old wooden console, CRT television. They got all this stuff hooked up. It's absolutely fantastic, and you get that feeling of, oh wow, welcome to the crummy basement. I love it.
Yeah.
So, and the kids sit there and they play and they play and they play. It's a lot of fun.
Very good.
Pete, do you have any updates as well?
Well, no, I don't have anything particular to update in my life, aside from that I ordered an emulator thanks to Steve's Wired Up Retro video on the Xbox to PlayStation. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, well, you know, the more I watch your videos, the more I seem to spend money. So far, you owe me about $50.
That's cheap.
Checks in the mail.
Yeah, I'll just write a check.
I'm just joking around. And, you know, Bob, you were talking earlier about how cool the 5200 podcast community is. Folks don't know that Steve and I made a trade. Steve, how's Wizard of War doing?
Oh, very fun. I really enjoy it. Yeah, that's a classic. I had it out for years on my 2600, and I've never owned it on the 5200. And I've got a pretty extensive 5200 collection, but that was always missing. So I really appreciate that. How's your Dreadnought Factor playing?
It's playing just fine. No, and I really appreciate getting that one in return, my friends. So
yes,
I'm having a lot of fun with that one, and I noticed that you use that in a lot of your videos, especially there was a video probably about a year ago where you used the flight control sticks.
Oh yeah,
playing
to play Dreadnought Factor.
Yeah, that's interesting. That I need to see. I need to start getting more toys like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was a nice thrift store find of mine that I picked up that flight yoke, and it all ended up working out pretty well in the 5200. I actually own two of them, and I use them with the 5200 adapter made by Bohoki at Atari Age. That's the 15-pin PC controller adapter. And of the two flight yokes I use to play on my 5200 games, it seems like one will work on one game and the other one won't, but then it'll be vice versa on a different game. So in a way, it's kind of nice to have the both of them, because not every game would work with just one specific one. So just be aware of that.
Okay, well, sounds good. Yeah, I still haven't gotten the adapter from Bohoki yet on Atari Age. I definitely have to do that. But I was going to talk to you probably on the side, because I did love in the Xbox video that you did what was the Atari program that you had soft modded in there?
It's called Atari XL Box. It's a 5200 emulator. It's also got the 8-bit Atari line on board as well, but it does the 5200 very well, and it has an analog control intact. And in my video, I was showing how to use PC USB mice, and that works very, very effectively for Missile Command and even Star Wars Arcade, which you can't use the 5200 trackball to play, but you can on the emulator. So it makes a new gameplay experience for that Star Wars Arcade game. I really like that.
Yeah, I'm going to start picking up a few of those. I'm going to get a fidget spinner and make one of your fidget spinner controllers.
Yeah, the fidget spinner works fantastic on games like Space Invaders, and I wish they would make Tempest available as a ROM, but they haven't. So I'm waiting for that so I can play it on the emulator. But I just recently ordered the cartridge from Atari Age. I finally broke down, and it's in the mail, hopefully. Can't wait to play it.
Well, yeah. I got a few, so I guess my only update is that aside from being addicted to Wired Up Retro and Glen's page as well, the Retro Show, I've been filling up my Christmas tree with eBay buys of 5,200 games, and so I will not open them until Christmas Day, but I'm probably at about now 35 games, most with manuals, and the ones with overlays all have the overlays.
Oh,
nice. Wow.
Nice.
That's a very good collection. Very
the
good.
original overlays. So I don't have all the games with the original overlays yet, but I'm getting there.
Oh.
Nice.
You're on your way. Yep.
I'm away.
I just wanted to say, Steve, that your wife is very fortunate that I'm not your neighbor, because I'd like be like the guy who'd be knocking on your door every day, and all of a sudden I would come one day, I see a for sale sign, and I'd see a sold sign, and there would be no forwarding address.
David, you're welcome to come over anytime you want. Come on down from the great white north.
Hey, Mrs. Everett, is your husband home? It's me, David, the neighbor boy.
Dave's the guy peering through the screen door, just screaming down the hallway, "Can Steve come out and play?"
No. I don't want Steve to come out and play. I want Steve to let me in the house.
Right, yeah.
Come in and
Can
play.
I come in and play?
David, you're cracking me up. That's hilarious.
So, Steve, just if you can, I know you just released not too long ago an updated video on some new updates on different controllers for the 5200. Could you just touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, I'll try not to go into too much detail. You can watch my 45-minute video on my experiment on the 5200 if you want to see some details. But, I was on our last podcast, I brought up a way to use PlayStation controllers, original PlayStation, and also PlayStation 2 controllers on the Atari 5200 using two adapters connected together. One is that Atari or the PC 15-pin controller to 5200 adapter. That's the first one. That's the one made by Bohoki at Atari Age. And then if you connect that to a 15-pin PC controller adapter that's called the Emulator Smart Joy adapter, which is a PlayStation and Nintendo 64 controller adapter. If you connect the two of them together, you can use PlayStation or N64 controllers on your 5200. So, yeah, I talked extensively about that on the last podcast. So my experiment had to do with maybe attempting to try to use these PlayStation 2 adapters for mice and keyboards connected to those two adapters, and three adapters connected in series with each other. And ultimately I did manage, I'll spoil my video a little bit, I did manage to get some success with one particular mouse keyboard PlayStation 2 adapter, and that is called the SpeedLink Redeemer Beyond Total Control adapter. And that particular one, there is a way to get it hooked up, and it involved using a hub, a USB hub that's powered up from the wall, and also using a mouse that's got a PS/2 connector, the old school mice, and a keyboard has to be also connected at the same time, and that also has to have a PS/2 connector. So anyway, get it all hooked up. You have to use the right keyboard. There are such a thing as the wrong keyboard. I've learned that. And you have to use the right mouse. And there's, again, such thing as using a mouse that won't work. So I managed to find a mouse that worked on pretty much every game, and it's made by LabTech, and it's called the LabTech Media Mouse. And so it's actually a laser optical mouse, not a mechanical mouse. And it tended to work very well on the game Beam Rider, which I showed in my video. And that's kind of a left and right kind of game. That's the kind of games that this mouse adapter works well with. And I played River Raid on my video on the 5200 itself, and that worked pretty well. There's a couple of downsides in that it tends to want to steer slightly to the right, so you kind of have to constantly be moving your mouse a little bit, kind of edging left more than right most of the time. So there's that. It's not perfection, but it's daggone close to perfection, and I really enjoy it for those two games. I did try it on Dreadnought Factor, thinking that would work well, and it had some issues with wanting to steer upward too fast. So no luck with that. I also tried a few other games like Star Wars Arcade, and unfortunately it doesn't do well with that. And Missile Command, it doesn't do well with that. Those I was really hopeful about, but anyway, it works better with the games that are just going left and right. So anyway, it's a really nice new little discovery. No one's ever done this before on a 5200, and I've kind of broken into some new territory. So, one of my videos, I made a little spinner, arcade spinner for the use of on a mouse. It's actually unattachable or attachable to a mouse. And that arcade spinner, which I used a fidget spinner to make in my video, I'm going to be employing that on my next video to make an attempt to play both Beam Rider as well as Tempest. So I don't know how great it's going to work on Tempest, but I'm waiting on that game to come in the mail. So I'm very excited to try that. It would be, I think, for a first on the 5200 for having a spinner. Well, it might be a second, because I think once I heard of a guy who modded his actual 5200 trackball to be a spinner. I don't know how he did it, but he managed to do it. So this might be the second time people have ever gotten to use a spinner on the 5200. So we'll see how it works. I'm hopeful, very hopeful.
Tempest does work very well with the CX53 trackball. So just in case if that experiment doesn't work out, the trackball is the way to play that game. And
it's probably going to be a really nice experience.
And just an FYI, I just happened to encounter a trackball for $349 on eBay. So there you go.
What a steal!
I'm sorry. Can you speak into my good ear? What?
It's seriously. Go look it up right now, Captain Bob. Since you were on it, $349. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's okay. I was actually going to bid on it. I knew if I did, David would buy it out under me.
Hold on. I'm on. That gentleman did get back to me. I think I will be the owner of these spare part Wicco controllers and stuff like that. So hold on. We need Atari 5200 trackball.
Bob, while you're looking for that, I just want to say that that's actually a pretty good price compared to Bounty Bob Strikes Back for $1,750.
I guess that blows my hope of ever getting that game.
Pete, here's the best part. So I just found it. Yeah, $349. Vintage Atari 5200 trackball controller, original box, very nice, rare, $349. Sitting right next to it, or even above it, is, hold on here. Oh, here we go. For $250, CX5200 trackball controller, never used, brand new, sealed box, $250. And there's a bunch of others.
Probably a reasonable price for a brand new one.
I brought my brand. Here's the thing. Before things took off, I bought mine for $80. Wow. It was brand new, still in the package, sealed. Well, here's another one. It's sitting right next to it. I'm looking on my iPhone right now. Pro-line Atari 5200 trackball controller with manuals, plus box, and 2 bonus controllers. $110. $44 shipping, but $110 for the box, the trackball, the manuals, and two of the native controllers.
Wow. Dave, I ruined your momentum, and I apologize.
That's okay. I said to them before you came on, I said, got to have Pete to keep me in line.
Yeah.
On the show.
I just found it funny that when you mentioned the trackball, I just had to throw that out there, that I just happened to come across that for $349. I was just like, oh, my God.
No, but the thing is, don't forget that in the last episode I said about that I had bought that brand new trackball from Venezuela for $75 plus $25 shipping.
Right.
So they're good.
Right, but that's still $100. That's fine.
Yeah. So, that's not bad. $100 is not a bad price.
But I am
$349.
I'm shocked by the prices here. I mean, well, there's one in the $70 range. Let's see. Trackball works great, pre-owned, $70. Okay, that's reasonable. Comes with a couple of games. But I am just shocked at the prices here. These things have just taken off. I guess word got out.
People are listening to the Atari 5200 podcast. That's what's going on.
Are we the reason they're up to $300?
Well, I think not. Just in general. In fact, I just got a message from the gentleman. I got to contact him, but I think I'm going to be the owner of those non-working Wicco joysticks, so I'm going to tear them apart. Steve, I might even send some of these to you, and you can mess around with them and see if you can make an improvement on them.
Yeah, I don't know if I can help you, but it's possible, I suppose.
This is an arcade game. This is the new Atari Super System. Arcade, Atari Super System. You may like the Super System better. It has some of the best arcade and sports games and plays every Atari cartridge. It even does something no arcade game can.
Telephone! It's Judy!
It lets you freeze the action.
Hello, Judy.
The new 5200 Super System.
I have been practicing with tennis for our second Sportsapaloza episode. I got to tell you, yes, it does work with the trackball. I prefer the joystick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I prefer the joystick. I think it plays better with the joystick. If you want to give yourself, if you've gotten so good at real sports tennis that you need to kind of challenge yourself, yes, use the trackball controller. I think the native controller works better on this one than anything else. So,
well, I'm glad you started on the review for the Real Sports Tennis, because I thought that was the game I was reviewing.
Oh no! I thought you were doing baseball.
I am now.
Okay. So yeah, I thought that was the plan. I do tennis, you do baseball. Problem. So
there's been a lot going on over here, but as far as modifications, I'll start with one thing I've been toying with the 5200 anyway. I kind of been sitting down a little bit trying to figure out a way to replace the Rev 9 Mylar board with something a little more sturdy. So I'm just in the early phases of that. But I'm trying to go with actually really small micro switches and still make it fit inside the controller. So my hope is, my hope is I found some really, really small, thin ones. And my hope is to basically replace the Mylar with actual tactile switches. But very early stages of that. So I'm really just in the very early prototyping of that. Outside of that, I've also been working on a micro spinner. And that's mostly for my microcades I've been working on. And as a matter of fact, while you guys were talking, I was cheating on you guys. I'm sorry. I'm not the most faithful guy, and I apologize. I just finished the Crazy Climber Robotron microcade I was working on. Sealed it all up and tested it. So that'll probably be the next video that I do. And I've also, you guys have probably seen I know you guys watch my channel. I've also completed my Excalibur Space Invaders, my Excalibur Missile Command, my Excalibur Frogger Pi Minicade. I also got some stuff for the Coleco Atom, a tape creation program called Mega Copy. I haven't had a chance to toy with that. So I'm hoping I can free some time up, now that I'm done with these minicades and microcades, to concentrate on making this new controller, maybe we'll call it Rev 10, for the controllers. I got literally a lot of 10 dead controllers, which, again, Metal Jesus, I agreed with him when I commented. I said, the controllers were an issue, but the console itself he was wrong about. But I'm going to try and hopefully make some salvation for these controllers, and it shouldn't be too expensive. I mean, the microswitches they found, for dozens of them, were $1. So I'm going to see how that goes. Maybe in the next month or two, we'll have something to talk about on that.
Excellent. I just wanted to say just how Steve is the king of controllers and the master of adapters. You are the king of microcades.
Hey, Glenn, make sure you don't erase your Atom game by accident.
Well, that's why I'm ready for when the Terminator's hit. I already have an EMP all ready to go.
Okay, so I just wanted to give an update on Real Sports Curling.
This looks awesome.
Yeah, we mentioned this a while back, but it's been updated. So basically, Average Software is an Atari Age member, and he's also the person who did Ratcatcher for the 5200. So he's working on Real Sports Curling, and he's just made an update to the game. Now, the game is not ready yet for sale, or it's not like a final code yet, but he's working on it. So he writes here in his post that it's time for another Real Sports Curling demo. A quick description of this demo, the download, various caveats, known bugs, etc. In short, the demo features a completely overhauled shooting system and lots of bug fixes. The new shooting system is explained in detail, and you have links to those posts. So one's a new weight system, a new aim system, a new curl system. The game is very playable now, even without sweeping. Sweeping is on his next list to do. And I'm just like saying, I never thought I'd be excited for a curling game. But I am.
It looks like fun.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Because I did curling in college. I think it's a great sport.
Honestly, I just see guys sweeping on ice with the broom or something, and I don't get it. So,
okay. Hey, this Blockbuster memo. This, I would love to see actual scans. I think it's just blur out like information or whatever. I want to see, because I went ahead and downloaded it and I read the memo. This is fascinating. David, did you find this?
Well, it happened just to be posted on Atari Age. And then I just started looking into it, and I thought, wow, because on Atari Age itself, on the Facebook page, when somebody had posted this, I said, hey, tit for tat. Because basically, I'm sorry, but ColecoVision and Intellivision basically stole the Atari 2600 from Atari. It would have been such an awesome, here's back at you guys now.
Yeah. Yeah, now we have a machine that not only plays everything that we have, but everything that you have. And it was like, wow.
The only thing that I would be worried about was because the VCS adapter is so tall, and then you add the 2600 cartridge on top of that. I'm just thinking, if they went that same kind of design style, can you imagine this huge apparatus you'd be plugging into the cartridge port?
Well, I'll tell you, you know what? I plugged mine in to check it out, make sure it was working. It does work. It's great. But I have two Atari 2600s that I will play 2600 games on. It is, all you need to do is bump it once, and you've just broken two rare pieces of equipment. It sits in my collection. It's really cool. It works. I will demonstrate, but I'll tell you what, if for just everyday playing, no way. I'll just use my Atari 2600 to play the 2600 games. I won't run them through the adapter.
But just quickly, one of the quotes off of that memo, it's not in context, but I just ripped that one quote where it says, both solutions build upon the 5200 to provide performance beyond that of either the ColecoVision or the 5200. One is to wrap a 5200 and a ColecoVision in the same package and share power supply, modulator, and some dual ported RAM. The other solution is to provide an external or internal enhancement to the 5200 in the form of another 6502, additional RAM, and a small ROM. So there were two ways they were looking at this. But, of course, the game crashed and everything went belly up.
Right.
And unfortunate. But this would have been something I would have been like, wow, this would have really kicked Coleco back some.
Yeah, this would have been something else. And it's too bad that
they
the crash
wouldn't
did
have
happen.
needed the 7800.
No.
They would not have needed the 7800. Yeah.
But the 7800 did give retrocompatibility, so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what about Glenn? Do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I don't know too much about it. I haven't had a chance to really look into it.
Okay, thank you for your opinion. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry, but it's okay.
That's okay. It's getting late. It's getting late for you guys, and I understand. So.
Okay. Let me go to another one.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So another project that's coming around that I'm really excited for is the Atari Jaguar to 5200 controller adapter project. Okay?
Yahoo!
So basically the history is on this is back in 2015, a really nice Atari Age member who goes by the name Grips03 started a poll, and the poll was, is there any interest in a Jaguar to Atari 5200 controller adapter cable? At that time, that was his idea. And basically, the poll ended with 96% in favor. Unfortunately, due to health issues, he was not able to continue with the project. So we hope that things get better for Grips03. We send him all our good thoughts, and hopefully he'll recover for 2018. Now, the good news is that Sean, aka Atari Guy 1021, is working on a similar project. And if you guys take a look at the show notes, you're going to see the pictures there. The adapter itself is smaller than an Atari 5200 cartridge. Underneath the adapter itself, like if you guys have a Master Play clone, you'll see that there's two dials. There's two pots in which you adjust the vertical and the horizontal. Well, on this adapter, it's actually on the bottom of the unit, so they're hidden. You don't see them.
Okay.
But what's also awesome is Phil Boland is making a label for this Atari 5200 Jaguar adapter, and if the demand is there, he will be making Atari 5200 overlays for the Jaguar controller.
Nice. Very nice.
Now that's cool, man.
Yeah. I've already said I want 4. Because one day before I die, I'm going to have 4 people over my house and we're going to play Mule on the Atari 5200.
With cool. Jaguar controllers.
That's
Jaguar controller.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a good thing. A lot of people have had, again, bad things to say about the Jaguar controllers, but I love them. I think they're very comfortable and very responsive.
I really appreciate them, too. I think they're fantastic in the hands. They definitely have just the right amount of thickness to grab onto it and play games comfortably. I really like it.
And if that wasn't good enough, the Atari community, the Atari 5200 community is super strong. Atari Age member Dr. Clue has released Bubsy for the Atari 5200, which is a hacked version of Fast Eddie on the Atari 8-bit, featuring the main character of Bubsy from the Bubsy game series. Now, the thing is, one of the friends of the podcast, Paul Westfall from 8-Bit Fix, he went in to, I think it was the Atari Mania website, and for the 8-bit version of Fast Eddie, he actually said, yet another phoned-in 2600 port, but in this case, that's a good thing. It's a solid gameplay that will keep you coming back. Squish'em and Turmoil are other examples of straight ports of good games. So basically, but the thing is, Dr. Clue has taken Fast Eddie from the 8-bit line, ported it to the 5200 line, but he's changed it up. Now it's Bubsy. And what's going on as well is he also printed out, he didn't print out, but he posted a label, Atari 5200 label, for it. And what I'm going to ask is Albert to make me a custom cart of it, just to add to my collection.
Nice.
But the ROM is free. You can get the ROM and play it with your Atari Max. So
very cool.
So it's just great to see that new stuff is always coming out for the 5200.
And new solutions and new way of playing these things.
I just hope there's no speech in this Bubsy game, because on the PlayStation, that really got on my nerves. So,
no, as far as I know, there's no speech.
Okay, good.
But the thing is, just to give a description for people who may be listening who don't know what I'm talking about, when I say Fast Eddie, you have multi-levels, and the levels are connected with ladders. And you got these guys called sneakers, which you must avoid. So there's these little characters that you got to avoid them, you got to jump over them. And you got to collect these items that appear. The more items you collect, the shorter the sneaker that's on the top level gets. And the funny thing is that guy is actually called, he's called High Top. So get it, High Top Sneaker?
Anyway, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So as you avoid the small sneakers, collect the items, the high top gets shorter, then you basically make your way up to the top level, jump over him, collect whatever item he's holding in order for you to go to the next level. It's a very simple game, but for me, anytime something comes out for the Atari 5200 that just builds up the library, it's an exciting thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds
Very
like
good.
a pretty cool game.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that the simple games are usually the best games, so there you go.
Okay.
That's exactly correct. That's why the 5200, sorry, I'm still mad about Metal Jesus. That's what he doesn't understand. Simple is beautiful. Simple is great.
The rage continues.
You know what? We weren't even going to mention this guy in this episode. I was going to keep it for another episode, but it just came out.
You know what? The wounds are fresh, so I will reach out to him. I mean, I'm definitely going to write him to his on his website and just say, hey, you know what? Love to have you on. I mean, but here's tell you what. Listen to our podcast. We've already solved all these problems. The problems are solved. So you got to give it another try.
I think he lives in your area. Either arrange to have a meet and greet face to face, or just buzz his house with your plane.
The house buzzing, not so good. See, after that, I would have to look for a real job, and I just don't have enough talent for that. So, anyways, but you know what? I'll reach out to him. I'll see what happens here. It'd be kind of fun.
Well, if you did decide to buzz his house, make sure you drop a payload of non-working Atari 5200 controllers on his house.
Just rain them down.
like the people in Defender after you pick them up.
There you go.
Yeah, rain them down.
Well, what's this thing I see about a Master Play clone?
Okay, so an Atari Age member known as 7800 Fan has come out with his own, if you want to call it, Bohoki style adapter, and he's calling it the Master Play Clone Controller Adapter, and he's selling them basically for about $20 each. But if you want the keypads and the extension, 15-pin extension cable, I think by the time all that adds up, you're looking at around $26.95. But the thing is,
not too bad of a price.
It's not a bad price. I mean, it's not a bad price if you want to get into using alternative controllers. Now, he doesn't use the keypads that most people have used. You know, Steve, like those hard, keypads. He's actually using the flexible ones.
So it is kind of an extra cheap material.
So it's like, yeah. But the thing is, it's interesting. He also found a flexible keypad for the start, pause, and reset as well.
That's what impressed me. It's like you're actually capable of building your own case for this. So this is kind of like an Apple I computer. Here's all the guts. Build your own case. I mean, this could be actually a lot of fun for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the thing is, he only made 9. One was sold at the time. I plastered it all over Facebook. I wanted to help him out. And I think he might have sold another one by the time we started recording this podcast. But I did mention him that we would be talking about it. And I'm just saying, whenever, you got great guys like Grips03, who's done stuff for the Atari 5200. You got guys like Atari Guy 1021, who's done great things for the Atari 5200. And then you got 7800 Fan trying to do something as well. The more the merrier. The more people that can jump on the 5200 bandwagon, the more the merrier.
So, David, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The one made by Atari Guy 1021 has Genesis compatibility for their controllers. Does this have that for the 2-button game?
Now, that is very interesting.
Good question.
I'm not sure about that, yeah.
That is true, so I don't see
it might just
that
be for
mentioned.
Atari 2600 controllers, yeah. Also, does it have the potentiometers that you can twizzle a little bit
No,
to
I don't
get
see
it
that.
centered up?
I don't see that.
Yeah. Okay,
But you have to
so we're
remember
just
the
hoping...
original Master Play itself didn't have those.
Sure,
the original Master Play doesn't have anything like that. The whole idea is to get you digital control with an analog system. So
right, okay.
and that was the main thing. So
If you think ColecoVision plays all Atari cartridges... You mean it can't? Here's Pac-Man on ColecoVision. But here's Pac-Man on the Atari 5200 Super System. Now you're talking. And it doesn't work on ColecoVision. But won't Jungle Hunt? Not with real arcade graphics. Ms. Pac-Man? This Ms. plays only on the Atari 5200 Super System. And now there's an adapter. For 2,600 games? Nearly 300 2,600 games. Super! System, now with a $30 rebate and Pac-Man from Atari.
There's other YouTube channels that also have great videos on the Atari 5200. One is called Modern Classic. He has a two-part episode in which he shows how to repair non-working Atari 5200 controllers. A great video. He also did a video named Atari 5200 Worth Buying ? And just to give you a hint, spoilers, the answer is yes. So go on over to Modern Classic, great YouTube channel. Also, a buddy of ours from the Atari XEGS Cart by Cart podcast, Kieran Hawken, has his own channel called The Lard's Lair, and he has a video up there. It's 100 Atari 5200 games in under 1 hour.
Nice.
Sean, on the Atari 5200 Fanboys Facebook page, ended up buying a lot, and in that lot, he found these two strange adapters, homemade adapters. And what it was is it was the original Star Raiders keypad for the Atari 2600, and somebody had added to it three small buttons on the top, which everybody was assuming was the start, pause, and reset buttons. And on the side of this unit, there was a 9-pin joystick port. And he was asking people, like, does anybody know what this is? Does anybody have any ideas? And there's a YouTuber called John Hancock. And he must have gotten connected with this guy because all of a sudden one of these came in his collection. He himself wasn't sure exactly what it was or what it did, but he made a video called DIY, Do-It-Yourself Classic Game Hardware. He tested about 12 different controllers with it, Atari, Genesis, etc., and found some would partially work, but he just couldn't figure out what was this thing made for. And thanks to Atari Age, your one-stop shop for all Atari greatness.
Pretty much.
Yeah, somebody there was able to help him out and found out that somebody had made this custom adapter for the Wico command controller.
It's beautiful.
Oh.
Yeah. So somebody
nice.
must have been, this keypad, because the keypad was never there was never produced in numbers, the keypad, as the Wico controller itself. Some guy must have said, hey, you know what? I can't find one, or they're too expensive. I'm going to make myself one. And that's what he did. He actually made two.
It's brilliant. Now we posted this on the Facebook page, correct?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I saw this and I just my breath was taken away. It was like, oh wow, this is so cool. This is what it's all about. People seeing a need, necessity being the mother of invention, and here's somebody who took it into their own hands and made something brilliant. I mean, I'm looking at it. They got the pop rivets in there. They really engineered this thing. This is a beautifully put together piece of equipment.
Neat.
Well, I'll tell you what. I just want to mention the picture that David, you posted. Yeah, I know Sears went bankrupt in Canada, right?
Yeah, it did.
But you posted a great page. I'll tell you, from our generation, Sears was awesome. And man, I mean, you looked forward here to the Sears Christmas Wish Book. That was the high point of any kid's growing up experience. And you published the page of the Atari 5200 right there. It's beautiful in all of its glory, and an optional Wico controller to go along with it, along with the trackball. I love it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good stuff. That's memories.
And look at the great
and
price.
It's cheap too.
Look at the great price.
I was going to say the price is only $149. What a deal!
Yeah.
Only we could go back
$80.
in time.
And they cut the price by $50. Plus, Atari gave you a $30 rebate.
Nice. Wow.
They're practically paying you to buy it.
Yeah, they're giving them away. Anyway, no. When I look at a page like this is just all nostalgic for me because these are like the catalogs that you would read when you were a kid, and really it was aptly named the Wish Book because there was a lot of stuff in there I wish I had.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. God, it's just so fun to look at. It's like, wow, that brings back so many memories.
Okay, guys,
all right.
We're going to wrap it up. I just want to tell you this mini-sode turned into a mega-sode.
Well, it's because we don't talk to each other very often. And
I know.
When we get together, it's like a therapy session.
The therapy right now session is gone for 2 hours and 6 minutes. So I'm going to have to go chop with my editing hatchet.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening to the Atari 5200 podcast. I am one of your show hosts, Pete Spivak, along with...
Captain Bob.
Steve from Wired Up Retro.
Glen from Glen's Retro Show.
David. I even mispronounced my own name.
Are you sure you're not drinking
David,
a little too much?
No fixed address.
We all say Happy New Year's to one and all. Thanks again for listening to the Atari 5200 podcast. We will see you next time.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program are those of the hosts and persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of ColecoVision or Intellivision owners. The Atari 5200 podcast is not responsible if you should start liking the Atari 5200 console over its competition. At this time, the Atari 5200 podcast now concludes its podcast day and ceases recording. The Atari 5200 podcast is produced under the authority of Bob Benedetti and David Vucetic. Regular listening of this episode now continues on iTunes and other quality feeds.
Discover Atari. And discover how far you can go.
Got to get it while it's hot. So
look forward to talking to everybody again soon, man.
Remember to send Metal Jesus coal.
I will.
All right. Send him a bunch more broken controllers.
I hear you.
Well, if we talk about him anymore, we're going to get a cease and desist order.
Yeah, there you go. He's probably got better lawyers than we do. So.
Well, Bob, let's put it to you this way. You got used to your bionic legs. You got used to your bionic arm. You got used to your bionic eye. You'll get used to your bionic tooth.
I'm going to have a bionic tooth. It's going to be awesome.
All I'm going to say is once that bionic tooth is fully implanted, I want to see a video of you on a plane. There's a child there. He's got a bag of walnuts. He can't open the bag. He's missing the nutcracker. You're going to come strutting on by. What's the problem, son? Oh, I want some walnuts, but I can't eat them. Here, I'll help you, son.
And then my luck, it'll break, and it'll be another $10,000 of dental work and reconstructive surgery. Please remain on the line, and a customer service representative will be with you shortly.
Blue, blue, sit. Good dog.